Welcome to Town Hall 103. That's right, we've done 103 of these. We started them in 2020, and we're excited. We've got some new sponsors coming in
Yay.
shortly, I'm hoping. So we'll be talking
Good.
about that soon.
Good.
It's Wednesday, June 21st. And also, just for my friend Randy.
First day of summer.
Randy, yeah, Randy, if you haven't purchased the new Extreme album, you should, because it's amazing. So you can just write that down and tell Jeff Tate I said hi. Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome to the CU Town Hall, and we'll jump into the next slide here. There you go. Here are your hosts. The one on the left is a former prisoner, reformed. He's been out for a while on probation. I think that's clear now. He's the CEO, co-founder of Best in Vision Group. That's
Very
me.
Happy for you.
It's been nice. I hate all those calls, where it always says, will you accept a collect call? Anyways, and then on the right is the one, the only, the guy who does it all and makes it look easy. Mike Lawson, creator, host of CU Broadcast. Welcome, Mike.
Sir. Still running from the law? Still running from the law?
Still running from.
I have to move around so much.
I'll say this: you're awful close to Mexico. That's all I'm saying. I think you're just a short drive to Tijuana, from what I remember.
My safe haven, yes, 45 minutes from the border. If I need to get a quick getaway, that's where I'm heading.
Yep, and that could happen any day now.
And they have great food there too, so it's all good.
I've heard that. And if you're keeping track,
where's Glenn?
Glenn Sarvati, he's not here. He's on a trip. He's off to across the pond. And out to go collect us some information on the latest innovations across the pond, I believe, with FinTech. He'll come back with more data soon.
Oh, right on.
He's traveling this week. So
awesome.
Speaking of sponsors, let's first talk about the CUNA councils. Guess what? There are 1,200 CUNA councils. They wrote them all down just recently, it turns out. One for every position at every credit union. Let's say you're a senior advanced accounting tech. You can go to the Senior Advanced Accounting Tech conference, usually held in Boise, Idaho, because that's where accountants go. It's a beautiful place, and I've been. It's wonderful. I actually really like it there. No, I'm just kidding. But they do have separate councils based on the various areas of expertise and centers of excellence in the credit union. You could be like Chris and I. We were once shanghaied into the CUNA Executive Technology and Operations Council. Both Chris and I were much younger, and as you can see what they did to us, it's not pretty if you look at us both closely. And I don't recommend it zooming in or anything on either of us, but Chris has definitely fared better than me. Anyways, it's a fantastic place to go, and volunteering is really important because it really does shape the industry. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. Go check out CUNA.org. Mike, I know you and I have met each other there many, many times.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. And then CU Broadcast. So the CU Broadcast is, I believe, broadcast from a prison. That's why it's called CU Broadcast.
Right here.
It's right broadcast here from the Cucamonga Union Prison, I believe. And if you're not watching Mike's stuff, I don't know what to say to you. Clearly, you don't. You're not a patriot. That's all I know. So we'll go with that.
We're going to be at the NAFQ annual conference next week in Long Beach, California. So we'll be doing some live broadcasting there. Yeah, Long Beach, right up the road.
Yeah, very cool. Long Beach is a special place from what I remember.
It's pretty cool. I
remember it being pretty awesome. So, And then finally, Best Innovation Group. We just doing lots of stuff for folks. Just recently helped our friends at Arrowhead finish an alchemy conversion, which was wonderful. What a great team. I love getting to go on site and visit everybody. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world. And just had a great time with Von Book and the team there, and it went really, really well. So just congratulations to them, and we're super excited, for all the people involved. And that's the kind of thing we do, is we come out, we help. We've been through this a lot, and it's surprisingly useful to have extra eyes and extra stuff around. So
no doubt. And your experience goes without saying, sir. Your reputation precedes you guys. So yeah, keep up the good work there.
That's what the parole officer said. Anyway, so let's keep going. Let's just keep going, shall we? Hey, guess what? We have a thing called the Innovation Club, and it's been around a long time. As a matter of fact, we have one of our first people to ever join right here in my screen. He's right under me. He's my cellmate from the CUDA group, Chris Teneda. Chris, would you mind at all just telling the people the good stuff, only the good stuff, none of the bad things that have happened about the Innovation Club, if you don't mind, because I could talk about it.
I think it's a group that brings I'm not sure if I'd say like-minded, but it brings people that are looking forward, have their heads up and looking at what's happening in the industry, what are the trends going out there, what is it that we need to be looking for, and we talk about those things, and we test those things, and we're not afraid to get our hands dirty every now and then. So I think it's just it's a good group of folks that are looking at innovation, looking at fintech, looking at what's happening in the industry. So that's my take on it, John.
And it's a wonderful take, and you've been a huge supporter. So that's why Randy, I believe, is joining. He's gonna right here in front of everybody. It's a call to the altar. This is where he pledges. He comes down and says, "I believe," and that's where we make it happen. Hey, speaking of that, if you want to check it out, you can go check that QR code. If it'll take a picture, that should not lead you anywhere badly. Or you can just go to big-fintech.com and go check it out on the Innovation Club. There's a link there. So very exciting. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. Yep,
that QR code works, John. Well done. Look at that.
Thank you. Thank you. It used to just go right to my parole officer, but now it just goes right there. I was able to get the parole officer out from between. Hey, lately we've been doing a lot of 365 work, man. 365 has really come up. Did you know, I don't know if you saw this, but how many of you freaked out last week and had to turn off a little software called Move It because the world crumbled around you and you had to shut that down right now? For those of you that don't know, Move It was a product that's used by many Canadians to move large files securely. Zix is another competitor you'll see out there, and it got the Cree app hacked out of it by a group called Clop. And yeah, there was so much going on with that. And part of it was how it was connected to 365. We're finding that a couple things lately. The NCUA is really looking at closely at Office 365. They don't look down upon it, but they want to make sure you've turned on all the things you're supposed to be turning on. And there is a lot. It has a pile of things that it can do from a security perspective that are really valuable, which we've spent a lot of time sort of discerning and have been working with Crayons helping to get those ready for audits, as well as just even taking over kind of the monotonous portion of it, which is you really got to go in there and look at it every day, just like anything else. And so it's been very valuable. We've been working with a lot of folks, so go check that out. Let's get on to the good stuff. Hopefully the next thing is not an ad. Let's just see. Yay, it looks like it's done. Woohoo! All right, done selling stuff. Now we can get to the good stuff. All right, I want to give an update from last week. So here's the update. Last week, when you last joined us, we had Lou Grow, and we talked about voice cloning, and I did some voice cloning. I did some testing.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and so Lou graciously agreed with his Wells Fargo app to test my version of it. So he sent me his voice and we tested it. And so we're not done yet, but I thought I would give a quick update, and I thought I would play for everybody to hear some samples, if you're okay with it, Lou, of your voice. And what we want to do is we're gonna do this a little live. So what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up. So for those of you that are watching at home, you can follow along just like this. So we're going to go to, now you can't get to this, but oops, I forgot to do one thing. Let me just go back. When I hit share, I got to make sure I say optimize for the video clip and share for sound. All right, so I'm going to go to Dropbox, and I believe I have a Lou. There it was, my Lou folder. And so here's my Lou folder, and Lou sent us a bunch of information where Lou said various things, and they were from a website that we talked about last time, which, to remind everybody, was the Harvard Balanced Sentence Examples, which was these guys. So I asked him just to read list 1 and list 2. So to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and play some information from list 1 and list 2. So 1 second here while I bring that up. Because what we did was we wound up going ahead and And Lou, why don't you give a little background while I bring this up, if you don't mind?
All right, so there was a couple of stories, and those of you listen to the big cast, you'll hear all this again. A couple of stories in the news that just kind of collided. One was this really scary thing on CNN that a mother gets a call from her daughter. Mom, I really screwed up. These bad men want to hurt me, something like that. And the girl was crying and screaming, and the mother said during the interview there was a request for ransom money, and the mother later on the interview said any mother can hear their kid, especially their kid's cries, from anywhere in the room, even if there's a whole room full of people, kind of thing, and which I believe. So she is like all shaken up, calls the police, FBI get involved. Somebody at some point thinks to call the daughter's phone. The phone call came in on an unlisted number, but the daughter was traveling some sports event, and so the mother just had this feeling that something may be wrong and she better answer this call. And as it turns out, it was a voice. It was a basically AI generated call with the daughter's voice, and it was good enough to convince the mother. And thanks, John just posted the CNN article. Around the same time, I saw this thing come out from Apple, a future feature. I don't think it's been released, but it allows you to do basically what John and I did, which is I read off a whole bunch of scripts, sentences from several scripts. And that allows the AI voice cloning system to pick up on my nuances, my particular style of speech. Hopefully, if it's good, it's going to say and like I do a lot. And this will allow, and you do this with your iPhone. I'm sure it's being stored in the cloud, whatever. That way, at some time, and you're wondering, why would I need, and then you can type in a text which will then be read off in your own voice. And if you're wondering why do I need that? And the example given is, if you remember Stephen Hawking's, who had debilitating disease, which took away his ability to speak and a lot of motor nerve skills. And he had to type in things, and it was read off in this very robotic voice. So in the future, Apple would like everybody to have that same capability, but it would be in your own voice, which you trained the system to do when you were still able to speak. There was some other voice news about voice cloning, but all these just kind of came together to make me think, this is gonna be bad for financial institutions, because there's a lot of financial institution call centers that use voice as part of the authentication. And I know for a fact that Wells Fargo, I have a rental property and use the Wells account just to manage that piece of it. And a while ago, they came up with this new feature that allows you to use voice, your voice, which you have to train a couple of times, instead of entering a passcode. So that's where, I mentioned that on a previous, that's a roll up for those of you who don't remember having this discussion on a previous town hall. And
yep.
John and I said, let's try it. So he created Lou saying the passphrase that I use for my Wells Fargo account. I think it's something like, my voice is my password, please authenticate me. And I had to say it several times, and it works. I don't do voice banking hardly ever, but the few times I do, it works. We tried the experiment was basically John created an AI version of my voice. I never said that passphrase as any of the scripts. So the AI system came up with me talking those words. I didn't say those words. I tried playing it back while on a speakerphone call to my voice banking. And I think somebody just put in the chat, I wonder if that would fool voice print. So the way I was doing it, which may be the biggest flaw, playing it back while on a speakerphone, and it did not fool Wells Fargo. I don't know what vendor, but I'm just a banking customer of theirs. It wasn't able to fool it, but John and I and Glenn feel that the microphone on a speaker call picks voices, human voices up different and processes them differently than playing audio out of a speaker on that same call. And if there was a way, so that's why John said, so I said initially, experiment failed. And John said, no, it's just the way we're conducting the experiment failed and we're not done yet.
Yep.
There, you're all caught up.
Wow, that was perfect. And the way I kind of said that we have to be careful about using the speakerphone is if you've ever been on a call with someone at the airport, when they chime in up at the, the come to count or whatever, for the person on the call, it sounds like someone took a bullhorn and put it in their ear, right? And that's because of the frequencies and how things are picked up from PA systems and from speakers. So exactly right. So here is the file and the program I used to create what Lou did. So I put this Apple Voice piece out there. I asked him to read these sentences, and he did graciously, and he sent me a file of them, and then I took them and I had to break them up into little short sentences. So let me know if you can hear this.
The birch canoe slid on the smooth planks. Glue
Were you able to hear that?
Yep.
All right, here's another one.
the sheet
And these are real short because
to the dark blue background. It's easy to tell the depth
it's just using these
of a well. These days, a chicken leg.
So it just needed that. And then I created a high quality one, a standard one, and a fast one. So we're going to start off with the fast one. And Lou, before I play this, can you say the phrase?
My voice is my password. Please authenticate me.
All right.
My voice is my password.
So that was, that's a previous one where I didn't have the long form of it. Hang on.
Right.
So I got to use this one. Sorry. Which I moved. All right. So let's try this one. Here.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
Oh, please verify me. Sorry.
Yeah, please verify me. So that was one. Here's another one. This is standard.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
And then here's the next one.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
Now, what was interesting about this one was, listen, you hear Lou take a breath, even though it's not Lou. It's a fake Lou. But listen.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
Thought that was interesting. Here is Lou high quality. This is the best I could do. It took me half a day to make these files.
My voice is my password. Please verify me. My voice is my password. Please verify me. My voice is my password. Please verify me. My voice.
Let's do it one more time. Lou, say the phrase.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
All right. So first thing is the very first thing is for Lou, for people. Lou does not feel like that sounds like him. Me and Glenn felt like it did. So in the chat, can you give me a 0 if you do not think it sounds like him, and a 1 if you think it does? So if everybody could go in, I'll play. We'll do it one more time. Wow, it's a lot of ones, Andy. Or Lou. Look at all the ones. No one.
All right.
So I
All
guess
right,
I don't need.
John, you win.
But I wasn't. But I thought we should check, right? So we did. So, and then Lou gave this a shot, and
My voice is my password. Please verify me.
But again, we're not done yet. So we've got a little more work to do. But this is just an upgrade or example of what's been happening and just a little bit of an update. So I thought I'd share that. I
just want to frame it up. Some other things that are on the podcast. On the one side, this is scary, right? So using voice for authentication kind of breaks. Voice cloning to sound like the CEO calling to instruct somebody to do something like release a wire, and other instructions. On the positive side, things like is something John came up with, so I've got to give him credit where credit's due. If you've used Google Translate, right? It's so phenomenal. Just type it in and it translates it, and they can even do the spoken part of it. Well, what about if it would be Lou speaking in a foreign language on the fly? So I'm speaking into, say, a webinar, and it's being translated with my voice in Spanish and Portuguese for sessions being conducted in Brazil and Argentina, kind of thing. So the potential of this is both scary for nefarious purposes, but really great for like other purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're going to see more of this. And what I predicted, as I said last week, was for those of you that were here, that there's this product that everybody's been trying to build for a million years. It's called the Switch Kit. And the premise of the switch kit is I get a new account at your credit union and I want to move everything over there. I don't want any other banks or any other financial institutions. I want you to be my primary financial institution. And so you give me a whole bunch of forms that theoretically I fill out and send to all these other institutions that then will somehow ACH should move accounts and do all the things that need to be done. And it's just never really panned out because of the complexities of the accounts and the, just none of us, if we got that same form from a bank, we wouldn't want to, do that either. And we certainly wouldn't do it without talking to the user. But we were talking about how in the future, you may have sort of an AI, John, that has my voice, that knows all the things that I know, that could become sort of a virtual joint. Which no, that's not a Colorado, cannabis store. It's actually kind of my new term that Lou and I came up with for what we believe will be features where you'll add a virtual joint to an account that if someone calls you or interacts with you, they could do it on your behalf. And if you think about it, Mint and Yodlee have been doing this for a long time. They just do it digitally by using your name and password. But imagine now they could do it to the call center. And that's where we're going to have some rules. For example, I don't think a virtual joint should be allowed to close an account. I think that you have to do that yourself, right? But that's going to take like actual regulation and laws maybe to make that happen. Like what can a virtual you do versus the real you and what's it's legal? It's going to be fascinating. It's absolutely going to be fascinating. So just an update on that. Mike, did you have any questions on that?
Sorry about that. So no, this is really fascinating stuff. So yeah, I mean, doesn't this kind of put a chink in the armor of biometric security though? That's kind of what I was thinking the last time around we did this.
All this stuff is going to put chinks in that armor. It's all coming. That's why the game is changing. That's why we have the town hall, right? We need to know about these things because guess what? These AI scam calls, if you do the search a couple of weeks ago, you wouldn't have found hardly anything about this. But now, if you go look, we're finding a whole ton of different things that are being done. They're recommending you come up with a safe word so that you know what that is. There's a lot happening, and they're already starting to see people attempting this, and it's being reported. So,
hey, John, can I jump in here?
Sure, of course.
So we use voice biometrics in our contact center, and with great success and great adoption at this point. Yeah. And this technology is moving so quickly that we have an on-prem solution right now, and we're moving to the cloud version because we cannot keep up with the releases that are coming in in order to combat this new technology capability. So our on-prem version is probably 65-70% accurate from a defensive standpoint in terms of combating some of the synthetic voice stuff. Once we move to their cloud version, we get back up to the 95-98% capability because they're constantly tuning their the technology, I guess, on both sides. But just it's another indication in terms of being forced to the cloud, if you will, just because we can't keep up with the releases from an on-prem standpoint.
Yeah, and I think that's you hit the nail on the head, Chris, which is what's happened is that ChatGPT, the product itself, has taken things that were kind of taking a long time to move along, and all of a sudden it makes them very, very quick because now people can do the work of like 3 or 4 programmers if you know what you're doing using this technology, rather than having to do it, separately, which is amazing. And then the good news is folks like Nuance are on it and they're looking, but it's a brand new game. And that actually speaks to Mike's question, which is how prevalent is voice biometric fraud coming into the call center today? That's a question I think for you, Chris. Have you seen any of this yet?
No, we've not experienced it at this point, but you never know when you're going to get your first one.
But it's common, yeah, for sure.
Right, yeah. Right, and that's the thing. You never know. and you want to know,
Yeah.
you might not notice it. Man, you could have experienced it, for all we know. That's one of the problems with this kind of fraud is it's sort of an after the fact thing in some cases. But that's really cool that Nuance is pushing that way. I know Lumina Labs is. And Chris, you'll remember years ago on the IC, we started looking into this, 2018, 19, somewhere in there, and had already started saying, hey, once this takes off, it could be sort of a new thing. So just something to consider and something I would like for folks to just think about as they go along. There's a lot of ways, account stuffing and synthetic account credentials are becoming more and more prevalent. And I think that's going to continue to be an issue. And it's we build a 10-foot wall, they bring an 11-foot ladder, we make the wall taller, we move it to the cloud, they bring planes. It's a never ending cat and mouse game. So, but it's one we got to play to be in business. So the next thing I thought was interesting, and at the risk of making this into just pure AI, but I thought people should see what this thing can do when it becomes autonomous, right? And so there is, I wanted to share with you this autonomous feature here. So I'm going to make this screen bigger so you can see it. So 1 second here, because I want everybody to see the actual things that are coming up on the screen. So this is a prompt. This prompt is on my Mac, and it's for a software called AutoGPT. Now, AutoGPT, the word auto would tend to make you think it might be autonomous, and it kind of is. So we're going to take a quick minute, and I want to show you this. And what I want you to see, the thing that I'm just so blown away by, is its ability to think, right? So what this program is supposed to do is you go through, you create an AI, and you tell it what you want it to do, or you tell it what you want it to be. So in this case, it came up with a default one. It's called Entrepreneur GPT. It's an AI designed to autonomously develop and run business as with the soul of increasing net worth, right? That's really wide open, and I don't want to use that.
So, John, you're still
Yes.
showing the folders from the Lou, from your Lou folder.
Oh, really? Okay, so let me fix that. Sorry about that. But the Lou folder is just the best folder I have, to be honest with you. So I don't have much more I can show to people. All right, so you're able to see this now?
Yep.
Thank you, Lou. So I ran this program, and it said, would you like me to return being the Entrepreneur GPT with the last settings? And I said, no. I'm going to call this one VACU GPT. Relax, Chris. It's not going to do anything to your actual credit union. You'll be safe. But, okay, so it wants to know what its purpose is. I'm going to say, this is an AI designed to increase member service happiness with a the credit union known as Virginia. Is it Virginia American?
No, just Virginia. Yeah.
At the A is just there, Virginia Credit Union.
Yeah, Virginia Credit Union. Yeah.
Or VACU. And by developing a strategic plan to use artificial intelligence and large language models in its business. Okay, so that's what it's supposed to be. All right, so I got to give it 5 goals. Increase member happiness or satisfaction. I spell satisfaction correctly. Honestly, it doesn't really care. Sat is faction. That's not right. See, that's the problem with me doing one of these live podcasts is
we get to watch you type.
Right. Well, we'll just see if we can figure that out. What's another one? Grow, increase products per member. That's always one, right? And reduce calls to the call center and grow membership organically. So there's my goals. All right, so now it's going out and it's actually going to use the platform and start, and you can see, look what that word says. Can you see that word down there, Mike?
What's that?
What's that word there by the spinner? You see it?
I see thinking.
Thinking. That's not a good word to use. That's a crazy word to use, right? And I've been thinking a lot about the words that they use when they talk about this. They talk about hallucinations. I don't like that word. I think I want to go with, and I think I said this on the podcast, confabulations is really probably more realistic and more what it's like. Hallucination makes it feel like it dreamt up, it got some mushrooms and got excited. Whereas confabulation is really sort of with it's creating facts with or not real facts with a goal. So let's look at this. To begin our strategic plan to increase member service happiness of ESCU, we should start by evaluating the current state of affairs. This will require some research, include analyzing, and it wants to know if I'm going to let it do this. It wants to go through and it wants to research and analyze member feedback. So it wants to assess the AI capabilities. I don't know how it's going to do that. So let's tell it. Let's say, yeah. Now, if I give it one command, I can tell it to do one. I'm going to say, go ahead and run one command. So there it goes. I've authorized one command. Had an error with an object there, but it's going to continue. So I've told it to go ahead and do what its first thing it wants to do is. So let's see. Okay, so we're waiting for the results of our Google search. So it went out to do a Google search. It says it wants to do a few other things. It wants to obtain vendor feedback. There's no way it can email anybody, but let's go ahead and authorize it. And I'm going to authorize it for the next down to 3 commands. So I said, yep, go ahead and run 3 commands. So we're going to go through and it's going to try to do these 3 things. But look at what it's doing. Look at the thoughts. Like it knows we're waiting on results. It knows that we're obtaining member feedback. It even gives itself criticism, right? It found your website. That's your website, right, Chris?
Yep.
Okay. I know the end of this. I've already run this and it says promote Chris. That's the final, that's
That's
its
right.
final thing. It's like all signs point to promoting Chris would really, that's how you would fix everything. But you could see it's trying to sort of work its way through this as a person would, but using the tools that it has, right? And one of the tools it has is Google. Now I think what's happening is I didn't want it to go out and do anything too crazy. So I have a few things disabled in it because it'll start, if it has an email address, it'll use it. If it has a way to call someone, it'll do it. It'll use whatever tools it can find. So now it wants to browse the social media. Okay, I'll let it go look for social media. That's fine. I think it'll go through. But you can see it's summarizing a chunk and it found the 1222. So it's going through and pulling that back. It says I found a website content and it's trying to find various things. Notice it knows it's a not-for-profit financial cooperative. And it's continuing to sort of work its way through it. Theoretically, now this is not going to work, but this is just where we are today. But I could tell it, okay, I just want you to get done until you produce a PDF for me, and it will do it. Now, is this the best use case for it? No, but I wanted to point out this reasoning, right? So it says, okay, here are my thoughts. Given that I could not find relevant information regarding pain points, we should consider looking at social media and interviewing some customers, which is why I have the mail turned off. If we could interview some customers, we could find out their needs and we could really go through it. Imagine if this was real and we turned it on and it was something you trusted, that Chris trusted. It was a product that he bought or something he built. And he was okay with giving it, the phone numbers. Then imagine that it's using the voice cloning or it's using any of these voice solutions. It could pick up a phone and call a member. And it could have a discussion with them and it could listen to the tone of their voice. It could hear what they're saying. It could understand the sentiment of what they're saying. It could then collect that data. It could call another 50 people or however many he wanted to do. And it could then take all of that feedback. These people could spend 2 hours talking to this thing if they wanted to, and it would collect all of it and then put it into a report and send it back to Chris and massage it however he wants it to be. But you can see that just by going through and giving it this, this sort of direction, that's what it can do. And so I'm going to get rid of this one, and now we'll try a new one. CU Broadcast GPT. Okay, I want to catalog, want to build a comprehensive catalog of all of the interviews that CU Broadcast has ever published. I would like summaries of each interview along with sentiment analysis and whether they had nice haircuts. All right. So goal one, find all content related to Mike Lawson or CU Broadcast. Goal two, summarize and store content. 3, analyze content, create a PDF report of content. Notice it came up with a haircut rating, which I think is good. I'm gonna let it do 5. Oops, 45. That's not good. I don't know what's gonna happen now. You see the Google error. That's because I disabled its ability to like go crazy buying stuff because I didn't want it. I've seen it just spin out and do all kinds of stuff, just playing with it. But you can see it's just working its way through, and it'll try. And by the way, that's not something that you probably would like to have, huh, Mike?
Yeah.
You know, like and it actually could be done very easily with this if we wanted to. Now notice it could figure out, you notice it talks about short-term memory, and it talks about, you can save things in its short-term memory. So I guess my point is, where I was going with this whole thing is, are these products? Are they tools? Are they both? Is this more like, is AI going to be more like RPA or robotic process automation, or more like a lot of other, power-ons or other report writing tools? Or is AI a product which would then, like be put it in? And let me explain what I'm worried about with this, and then we'll have a discussion about it. So what I'm worried about, and the reason I wanted to show you this, is I'm worried about this. Here's where my head is. We're very early on, and I know everybody's going to go, but John, none of this exists yet. That's true. So let's say you buy, product A, and product A has gone all in on GPT technology, large language models, and they have, built-in AI stuff, right? Now, how are they doing that? Are they using, and let's say that this product A is something that does something for mortgages, I don't know, something. And then let's say that another group finds product B, right, that does something for credit cards, and it now has an AI integration, right? And that AI integration has a built-in AI. Now, if this were a real department, right, if this is the credit union, theoretically, if these are departments, these were people, they would talk, right? But the challenge here is that what I'm seeing sort of evolve in the world here is that these people who build these products are integrating this stuff, but they can integrate it through OpenAI, but then they have to deal with sort of the privacy and the money it costs. or they go and find their own large language model or a model like what, say, Microsoft did with Copilot and implementing that, and then they put that in. And so the issue is that it'll be a little like back when we used to buy products without concern for data management and for API integration when we weren't thinking from a governance standpoint. And so if this AI and this AI, I think we can all agree that the right way to do this, or what it should probably look like, is the CU is going to need some sort of LLM, GPT, whatever it is, that has the rules of the credit union built into it. And then the way I would hope it would turn out in the future would be that that you would have something that looks, more like this, that has out routines that would talk to this and then use because think of all the work it's going to take to train this thing not to do weird stuff and this one not to do weird stuff and follow all the rules. And so we're at this weird inflection point where I'm hearing people talk about these things. And I'm wondering, is it too early to buy in, or do you buy in and get the value out of this while it's still sort of its own separate thing, but that you can't let it get out of hand and become like, something that's sort of a thread in the cranium that gets way out of whack. And then all of a sudden this thing's learned a whole bunch, but this thing doesn't know anything about it, and so forth and so on. So, and I'm gonna, I don't get to talk to him as much as I'd love to, and then I truly enjoy spending time with him. And he knows who I can already see his face. He's like, oh God, he's gonna come to me. But Sunita, I mean, you're kind of in charge of this sort of thing at your credit union. Have you guys talked about this at all? And is this something that you're thinking about, or am I way out in the limb and pushing people here?
No, I think, Johnny, basically this is the governance of AI, and we talk a lot about that and how we're going to do that, and whether it can understand our policies. Can we point it at our policies and ask it just, when it acts to act within our set of policies? And, that's just conceptually, I don't know if it can do it, but we definitely are talking about how we use this tool and how we govern it.
Yeah, and so the policy, but the thing is that you don't want to feed policies to this, right? And then have to feed it to this, and then these get out of sync.
Yeah.
It probably, but you're right. It is, and then the other thing is, if you don't have these connected, then theoretically you saw how this thing can think, right? When I was showing this, I was showing the background stuff. It's capable of cross-selling. It could say, hey, a mortgage is maybe not what you're looking for here, or a credit card, a credit card is maybe not what you're looking for here. You're looking for a HELOC, and let me transfer you over and warm handoff you to the other AI. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
It's so, and I'm thinking, I've just kind of given this taste of what I'm already, expecting. And then I also think that you're right, policy would live here, fraud would live here. Like this whole thing is just a brain. It almost becomes the core in a way, because it's sort of a traffic cop for all this. But my worry is that, to get out there quickly, you're going to wind up sort of with whatever their built-in AI is, then a whole bunch of work in that. And maybe, I've often been way ahead of my headlights, and maybe I'm saying, hey, wait for this, but then this is so far out, you could get hurt by, not taking the risk of, just using what you can find in your products because it gives you such a value add. But then I worry that later on it becomes such a mess to unravel. I don't know. That's just how I'm thinking about it. And I like your point. I think AI governance, we've been talking about that. By the way, is AI governance is different than, say, ChatGPT governance? We're finding a lot of folks who are talking to their staff about what to use ChatGPT for, or whether they even let it be on, which is another issue to think about. And so there was a lot of good discussion around that I've had with various credit unions around, what's acceptable, what's not, what it could say, how to use it, which I find fascinating. And that's very different than buying products that are integrated as opposed to websites that people use to increase their productivity. So just interesting stuff. So do you have an AI governance committee formed already, Chris?
No, we're considering, how do we facilitate that? We have existing risk management committees, and we're thinking about just putting it in as part of that.
I feel like
So
it covers that plus data. I feel like it's got to like cross those two, like the data as well to some extent, which risk management would cover both of those, I guess, but it's different. It's a different vibe. I don't know. Lou, what's, you're in charge of everything at PSCU. I hear Chuck just defers to you. What are you guys thinking about this? If you can share, something that you can share, or your own thoughts, either one or both are incredibly useful.
The PSU is a large organization, so I don't know. I can't speak to some of the other parts of the organization that are looking at this. But also remember that our primary business is credit card, debit card processing, contact center, disputes, and now with Juniper payments, real-time payments. So using AI for like cross selling, things like that, I believe, yes, makes a lot of sense. The thing that scares me, though, I'm going by article. I read articles, and then it makes me think. There was, I don't know if I can find it. A lawyer was playing with AI, tech savvy, so he asked the AI system to write him a brief, and he submitted it. And the whichever one he was using just completely, you don't want to use the word hallucinate, but it hallucinated cases that did not exist at all. And the judge threw out his whole argument. So the thing that scares me right now is AI will provide, and I think you and Glenn on a previous podcast, maybe, I forget where I was listening to, we're even talking about how AI said something and then when told that's wrong, it apologized and then updated its answer. So that scares me in something like this, where what are you exactly looking for? I'm looking to do some remodeling in my house. So I'd like a credit card. And then the AI probes a little bit more and says, well, do you already have a mortgage on your house? Yes, but it's nearly paid off, something like that. So I must have some equity, and it's probing for that, and then recommends a home equity line of credit. What if instead it goes off the rails and says, I recommend for you a reverse mortgage? And it's okay, so I'll go for something crazy like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, this is the stage that we're at is too scary for use, or even if bad guys hack into this and maybe the AI says, I recommend that you get a debit card for John Best. And okay, how will that help me? Trust me, this will enable you to complete your renovations in double the time or something.
Right.
And, so yeah, there's the potential here scares me. The fact that it's still produced this many of, just start looking up AI giving wrong answers, and I bet you'll get screenfuls of examples of that.
And Jim's already put one out there, or James did, and I put one out, the one you talked about, which was the same one, the Aviak Mata lawyers one. I think there's a ton of that. But what's interesting, you make a good point that I hadn't thought of that I was going to throw at you, which is, the idea that you're saying here does make me kind of look at it and think to myself, that chance for that hallucination or that wrong, I think it's that much more likely if you have a bunch of these that you're trying to corral, as opposed to one that you're trying to, to do. And it's fascinating, to think about that, because if they have one and they have one, now you're trying to keep all of these from, going off the rails and doing weird stuff, right? So, that's a concept as well, that you want to think about is how many gates do you want to guard, and how much can you do? So yeah, it's fascinating. So, I think this idea of AI governance, I've already been putting a lot of thought into that. And I think it starts with an ethics sort of approach. and then it works its way into much more tactics and but it needs to start with a strategy, and that strategy needs to start with what's ethical. For example, and here's an all play. So everybody on the chat here, if you could magically wave your arms or your magic wand, and you could have this magic AI chatbot that would reach out to members via email or voice and talk to them as though they were, a credit union staff member. Would you tell them, do you think you should tell them that who they're speaking with is an AI representative? And so let's start with that question. 0, if you say, nah, they don't need to know. They just need to know, because they don't know about the marketing emails, right? They don't know who's writing those. We assume they know because they're smart enough to figure it out, but this is a new world. Or should there be, that's a 0, or should there be a number 1 for some sort of law that says, no, anytime you're talking to AI, particularly one that's capable of fooling you, thus the Turing test, it should have to announce itself and you should know. I can already see that's what everybody wants. Yeah, I had a feeling, but there's no law for that. There is no law for that. So, and, but if you could do that, or if you should, if that's what folks want to do, then it's likely, I think that, I think that's the right way to go. And I think it will be accepted. I don't think it will hurt you. I think that people recognize that we now have these abilities and the world's changed. And if it's working on their behalf, I think it absolutely be used. But we're going to need laws. This tech is leapfrog so much stuff that we're going to have to back. It's going to be like crypto all over again, except for way worse, like 1,000,000 times worse. Like, look how long it took for the laws to catch up with crypto. This is going to be a whole lot faster. But yeah, I agree. I think you tell them up front if they go through. So, all right. And we're going to use the last 5 minutes of this because Jim just said something, Jim Yates, from my buddy from Wyoming. He said that he was using it to create a loan. What was that you said? It was interesting. He said he was going to use it to do
it was a loan promotion that was open to women only.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Jim, do you mind
Sure. This was, when it first came out, I was playing around with it, and I asked it to develop a marketing plan for a credit union that focused mainly on educators, which is what we do. And so it said, since most educators are women, you should develop a loan promotion, a loan product that is available to women only.
Ooh, that sounds horrible in a lot of ways.
Right.
But here's the thing: is that true in Wyoming? You would know, right? Because you're is that a true statement
about? You can't discriminate based on gender.
You can't discriminate. But I'm just asking if that statement's even true. Is a vast majority of educators in the school system lean one way or the other for a gender?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not as much as it used to be, but particularly the school districts here that we deal with, I would say it's still, I don't know, 60% female at least. Maybe
higher. It's interesting.
In the lower grades, it's higher.
But you saying that ChatGPT discerned this for itself. It said, oh, well, now that I know a bit about you, and this is what I know about the Wyoming school district, this is your approach, or did you? So it came up with that in its own.
Right. I didn't put any, I just, simply said marketing plan focused on educators. And it came up with the gender bias.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a little scary.
Bias is the number one issue that everybody's worried about. And reality is, and there was, I think Gregory Hinson was talking about it. He's the engineer that left Google, basically the grandfather of AI, if you will, that people are kind of calling him. And he was essentially saying that nothing that has been used to program by the content of men or content of humans is by definition it will have bias because there's just no way around it. So what was the other thing I thought that was interesting was what's been happening at Reddit. So for those of you that use or know Reddit, and I'll close on this because this is something I want to put in your brain. So I'm going to leave you with this one, and all of you are going to go, why do you do this to me, John? But Reddit used to be wide open as far as an API for free. So if you were a developer and you wanted to create your own Reddit application, so it doesn't mean you're like trying to be Reddit. You're just creating the front end for Reddit. You're creating a portal for Reddit, your own Reddit application. And maybe your Reddit application is for specific people who use Reddit for social media, I don't know, something. And so your app leans that way. It has tools for them. It's very specific. And people could use it and you could make money off that. And Reddit didn't take a nickel from you. All they wanted was the people to come to Reddit and use it in the content. So they left their API open and you could do that. But Reddit, much like other organizations, figured out in the past few months that is how they're training these large language models. Is they're pulling down all this Reddit content, which is right back to what, and trust me, there's plenty of Reddit content I don't want any large language models trained on, for one thing. But it got me thinking, and here's my question. We know that Mint and Yodlee and a number of other MX and other screen scraper folks come in. We don't really have any real deal with them. Some do with Yodlee or something, depending on your home banking vendor, but for the most part, you don't have any real deal with them. And they come in and they scrape the members' data. And there's nothing we can do about it because right now anyway, supposedly. But that got me to this announcement today, which I will post. I'm gonna stop sharing my whiteboard here and show you this new site. And I can tell Lou's chomping at the bit. He can't wait to get it because it is pretty cool. Which is they came out with this FinGPT. And it's fascinating how it's designed. You should look at this. I'm going to post it in the chat here. But it got me thinking, how are we training FinGPT? Where are we getting our quantitative trading from? Where are we getting, all of these details if you look at this from? And I would bet money that some of it is going to come from people using Mint and other products that have already gone in and scraped so much data. But remember, data is only as good as, the last 15 minutes ago, particularly financial data. So while historical data will be good, they need to keep it going. It has to keep happening. Otherwise, the historical data begins to be useless because trends change, things change, the economy changes, all of those things. So do we follow Reddit's model? Is the time come to shut down the screen scrapers? I don't know. And how long before people start using ChatGPT to do screen scrapers? I don't know. So I leave you with that unfortunate thought that I had. Now everyone else gets to sit around and scratch their head about for a bit. And so next time on the town hall, I'm actually going to fire up this FinGPT and we'll poke around it and see what it does. I didn't have time to just came out where I found it today, but I think it would be interesting to do some demos with it and see what it does from a finance standpoint. So that's what I'm going to play around with and poke around on the next time. We're going to talk about AGI and we'll catch up on some other things, including a new release from the folks at OpenAI that allows the system to take more data or to have more short-term memory, which is interesting. So with that, I can't thank you all enough for just all the participation and joining us here, and hope you got something out of it. And thank you for your time.
Right on. Thanks, John.